Hello everyone, this is Dave. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Today we'll be going through the latest Rocket Lab updates. There's actually been a lot of news happening that you may not have been aware of, so we'll go through all that today, everything that's happened in the last couple weeks. If you're new here, I do hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button by the end of the video. It is so helpful for every new subscriber that joins, and thank you to all my current subscribers and especially the channel members who have been supporting what I do here and make this possible. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this week's Rocket Lab updates. So starting off with the stock, obviously it's been an incredible week, so congratulations to all the shareholders out there on your gains. I'm feeling pretty happy as well. Obviously, we were up over 11% today, making a new 52-week high and indeed a new all-time high. So pretty exciting times for the shareholders. Of course, at times like this, when I should be just patting myself on the back, I end up instead kicking myself for not adding more shares when it's cheaper, but I think that's really just a human psychology problem that we all have to deal with. And overall, all of us shareholders have done very well with our shares. You can see on a 1-week basis as well, great performance going from around $28 all the way up to $36. Just really good stuff. I attribute this partly to just overall market strength and seeing a lot of space companies get pushed up higher together. So it's not only Rocket Lab. We're looking at AST performing very well, as well as Planet Labs, as well as even Redwire has done pretty well, bouncing back, and some others. So being partly driven by those tailwinds as well, I think the kind of bullishness around the rift between Elon and President Trump, I think, is really driving it higher, causing a lot more people to look into Rocket Lab and think about them as a viable alternative to SpaceX and not just having to rely on one person's whims, one person who happens to be quite volatile at times as well. So I think that probably has a lot to do with it. We can see on the trusty Ape Wisdom website, you got to love that name. Rocket Lab has been climbing the charts rapidly. Retail investors on Wall Street Bets and similar forums moving moving up the ranks and how often it's being discussed and posted about. Now, I think there's always a debate about the cause and effect on this. Could very well be the fact Rocket Lab is moving up so much causes people to post about their gains, which just, pushes it up the rankings, as opposed to the people on these forums actually moving the stock higher. But you could get a bit of both. Maybe so many more people posting about their gains causes new people to jump in, buy those crazy option plays that Wall Street Bets is known for. So yeah, whatever that's worth, always interesting to check in on occasionally. Rocket Lab actually significantly higher than even AST on this chart, which has performed incredibly well lately. So congratulations as well to AST shareholders. I do have a small amount of shares, but unfortunately not enough. But I thought I was late on that stock too, and I still have well over a double. So it has done very well lately. But anyway, on to the news. Obviously, if you were watching, we did have a successful launch of Rocket Lab's 67th Electron mission for Hawkeye 360. This is a dedicated mission to launch radio frequency geospatial analytics for Hawkeye 360. Now, interesting thing for this is that in less than 48 hours after this mission success, Rocket Lab is scheduled to launch their next mission, which would be the fastest turnaround yet from the same launch complex. So there would have been a faster turnaround between, one launch in Virginia and one launch in Wallops, not Wallops, obviously New Zealand. But this is the fastest same launch complex turnaround, which I consider to be even more impressive and just a show of how quickly they can get that pad turned around, get a new rocket ready to go. Congratulations to Hawkeye and Rocket Lab on another successful mission. Now, of course, that next mission is the long-awaited Symphony in the Stars mission. You might be familiar with this because they did attempt to get this mission off twice before. Unfortunately, it was delayed due to high upper level winds, and they delayed it a second time to perform some additional checks. So these things happen with rocket launches. You want to be safe as opposed to sorry, so no problem with those holds and delays on that. I do hope they get it off on this launch, and that obviously will be historic for such a quick turnaround. And the interesting thing with this launch is it's for a commercial, confidential commercial customer, but Detective Tran, as I've taken to calling him on Twitter, and one of the smartest and most in-depth Rocket Lab knowledgeable guys around, I think did crack the case on what this launch is for. So it's basically for EchoStar's Lyra satellites. You can see the image looks almost the same as those sats, and he did dive deeper into their orbit and all the details around it, and it just makes a ton of sense that this launch is for Lyra. Also, when you go into the name, Lyra is a Greek and Latin meaning music and harmony in the night sky. And we're talking about symphony, aka music and harmony. So it really just all lines up that we figured out who this secret customer is. Now, usually that wouldn't be too big a deal, but there is a lot of drama and intrigue around EchoStar right now. If you're not familiar, they're in a bit of a spectrum battle with SpaceX. So they have this highly valuable bit of spectrum in the 2 gigahertz band, which is thought to be extremely useful for direct-to-device communications. And SpaceX is basically fighting on them on it, saying SpaceX should be able to use it because EchoStar isn't using it enough and they're not fulfilling their obligations with the FCC to keep that spectrum. EchoStar obviously vehemently, I hope I pronounced that right, denies these allegations and says they are using it, and part of that use is getting these satellites, these Lyra satellites, up and operating on time. But EchoStar has a lot bigger aspirations for this spectrum beyond that, and it is leading to some speculation in the community that there could be a something in the works with Rocket Lab beyond this launch. Perhaps EchoStar would be using Flatellite buses for their, in progress direct-to-device or IoT constellation, because EchoStar is working, from what we understand, on the payload for that, but not the buses. The buses would be outsourced. So remains to be seen on that, but it's nice to see that Rocket Lab at least has this one partnership with EchoStar, and there's always the potential it does run deeper. We're getting more and more rumblings around Rocket Lab and direct-to-device internet connectivity, so more on that later. Just another article here on the ugly fight between SpaceX and EchoStar. We'll see how that one shapes up. Basically, if the FCC grants you, exclusive use of a certain section of spectrum, it's usually you have to use it or lose it type thing. So that is what this all comes down to. SpaceX arguing that they're not really using it, therefore they should lose it. Similar fights between SpaceX and Globalstar. I believe SpaceX really trying to push in and get more spectrum, it seems like. Okay, next up, still on the Electron front, Rocket Lab signed a contract for 2 more missions. This from the European Space Agency to launch 2 small sats. So great news for a few reasons. I think it really goes to show the responsiveness of Electron. The ESA saying that they chose Rocket Lab because of the urgency of getting satellites into orbit to put their spectrum allocation into use. So once again, they use it or lose it, and they really need their satellites up there to be used. Not so much for what the satellites will do, but just so that they don't lose their spectrum. It's kind of a funny thing. Like we need satellites up there doing something just so we don't lose our spectrum, not that we need them doing something, to make us money. So they will launch these and by the way, these are the first of 10 satellites, I believe. So some speculation, maybe there's potential, if this launch goes well, for some of those future satellites to be launched by Rocket Lab as well. Or you never know, ESA could go with a rideshare option if the scheduling works out, depending on their urgency, because there does tend to be a bit of a backlog there. Although, once again, I don't think ESA loves having to put their stuff on Falcon rockets. So that could be another point in Rocket Lab's favor. Continuing on with the Electron news, Scott O, who I consider at this point to basically be the Electron scheduling and manifest guru of the community, was saying recently that he thinks Q2 was still looking good for 5 launches, and we can see with the Symphony one getting launched, hopefully if that does, then we are good there. We have quite interesting manifest in the near future. He has here Capella 6 from obviously Capella Space still in June. July, we're looking at another HASTE launch as well as another IQPS launch. So the manifest is quite busy, and obviously that's good because we want to see as many launches as possible for Electron. Continuing on with his clip here, he's saying that there's potential, of course, highlight potential, for another 20 launches. That's not 20 total, that's 20 after the 8 launches to date. So that would be, far in excess of what Rocket Lab was projecting for the year, saying that they plan to do at least 20 launches. Now, generally, when you have this many launches on the manifest, they don't all actually end up ready to go on time, and that's more of a customer readiness than an Electron readiness issue. But just the fact that they have that many launches potentially lined up for the remainder of the year, I think bodes very well. As long as Electron gets 20 launches, the analysts will be happy. Anything more will be considered a beat. Once you hit to 20 to 22, 24 launches, you're starting to look very good from a gross margin point of view on Electron, as those economies of scale really hit and you amortize those costs for the launch infrastructure across more launches. So you start to get more like 44 to 50 points of gross margin and makes the financials look a lot better. So 40 to 44 points probably when you're not using reusable electrons in there. So another good sign for Electron, I think. Now this note, nothing too major, but I just figured I'd mention it because there is a launch crunch coming for Amazon's Kyper. They did just have another launch on an Atlas V from ULA for a batch of 27 internet satellites, but they have a ton that they need to launch by next year around this time. Seems highly unlikely they'll be able to hit that schedule, and there are we've heard delays from Blue Origin, originally hoping for something like 6 to 8 launches this year. Now we're looking at just like 2. Vulcan's had several delays as well, which is also contracted with Kyper. Ariane 6 as well. So, I've speculated for a long time that it might make sense for Electron to draw in here and get some Kyper launches. Obviously, Amazon not on best of terms with SpaceX and would rather not launch on Falcon 9. Remains an issue for Amazon, so we'll see how that goes and how fast those Blue Origin launches can ramp up. Next up, just something a little bit interesting here. So NASA every year has a summer series of talks by subject matter leaders or experts from around the globe, and one talk this year on July 10th will be about Rocket Lab's mission to Venus, so that'll be quite interesting. It's a mission I'm very excited about. Won't be a big financial driver for the company at all, but really put them on the map as a company that can just go to Venus on their own if they want to and perform amazing science. And I think it's really, going to be great for hiring. It's going to be great for getting Rocket Lab's name out there and giving them a bit of, props to their name, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's a better word for it that's escaping me right now, but really excited for that mission. So looking forward. I hope we do get to see this video publicly. Okay, continuing on, we did have several Form 4s filed for share sales for Rocket Lab. So if you look at their SEC filings on their websites, you'll see a bunch of them here. Not going to go through them all. We have some directors selling. I mean, not really shocking after people have held for many years and they've seen the stock do like what, an 8x or something in relatively short order. Of course, the big one that we should talk about is Peter Beck selling some shares, because I did think that might weigh on the stock when the CEO and founder sells shares. Clearly not. So the stock is still doing fine and still rising, but I did think this deserves talking about. So he will be selling up to 5 million shares of common stock, which means, about $180 million at today's share price. Obviously, that could fluctuate. This, has to happen during a cool down period where he's allowed to sell and he doesn't have insider info or something like that. So, my thoughts on this: the guy's worked incredibly hard. There was just an article today about how he gets up at 4:30 every day, works on Rocket Lab, and stops working at Rocket Lab at like 10 at night. So enjoy your money. You've earned it, and you've created an incredible amount of shareholder value along the way. So if Peter does happen to see this, which I highly doubt, us shareholders do thank him for his efforts, and I don't blame him at all. And not only that, though, he's using some of the funding to fund Rocket Lab's Venus mission himself, because obviously, they're doing this as a philanthropic effort to perform some great science, searching for signs of life in the atmosphere of Venus, which is a whole other topic. But what a badass move, Peter just kind of going himself. NASA's not going to go and check Venus, so I'm just going to go do it myself. Like, absolute badass respect. And it's kind of sad he has to sell some shares to do it, and he can't get, say NASA to hire Rocket Lab to do it, because I do think it's science that really should be done. But I'm glad you have people like Peter Beck stepping up to the plate and answering some of these questions that I certainly have about life in the solar system and beyond. So that will be a very interesting mission. Also talking about just selling for diversification, tax planning, and estate purposes, as well as long-term financial planning. So I don't have any problems with it, but let me know what you guys think down below, as always. Okay, one more tidbit here from Jeff, who is one of the top space reporters in this business, talking about Escapade, those 2 satellites Rocket Lab made for NASA to go to Mars. They were supposed to originally be on the first New Glenn mission. That scheduling didn't work out. So now apparently they are looking at having the spacecraft go on the second New Glenn mission, which we're all hoping gets off this year, but will remain to be seen about that. There have been some, well-publicized delays, but it does look like New Glenn should have a second launch in the year, probably just 2 as opposed to what they were originally hoping for. But could certainly happen later this year, which would be exciting as well. Rocket Lab, obviously, pretty impressive, really. You're talking about spacecraft going to Venus and Mars from Rocket Lab in the same breath, in the same video. So not an easy task at all. More smoke around the Rocket Lab 5G internet connectivity topic here. So we have a Space Tech Expo that happened recently, already passed. I haven't seen a video of this, but if anyone has a video, I'd love to see it. There was a presentation here by Rocket Lab Director of Business Development for Space Systems, Lisa Kuo, and she was talking about advancing connectivity and the future of 5G in space. And we've seen several other tidbits here and there over the past months from Rocket Lab about 5G NTN connectivity, kind of next-gen 5D direct-to-device, whether that's Internet of Things or potential for mobile phones. So more smoke there for, potential for Rocket Lab getting into that industry, either on their own or through some kind of partnership with the likes of EchoStar or someone else. Obviously, that would be an incredibly large market, although it is looking increasingly competitive. When we talk about AST, obviously SpaceX's Starlink, there's a bit of Globalstar in there with Apple and Kyper, more and more, obviously. So it is a game where you have to compete with the big boys, that is for sure, but the rewards are potentially massive. Okay, this one, not much of anything, but I just thought it was a little interesting that the SDA did tweet about Rocket Lab acquiring Solaro back in 22. Not sure why they tweeted about this now, to be honest, but they did. And obviously, Rocket Lab looking for a big contract from the SDA for the Tranche 3 tracking layer. So take that for what it's worth. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I did just want to point out there have been a lot of investor conferences that Rocket Lab executives, Adam Spice, Stephen Aeneas, have spoken at over the past months. I haven't seen any of these recordings pop up on their investor relations page. If anyone's seen them and there is a recording floating around, I'd love to see it, so do let me know. Another one coming up soon though, June 24 to 26. Actually, that should be today with Adam Spice attending. That's the Jefferies Virtual Space Summit. So yeah, once again, if anyone's seeing that, I'd love to hear and get some takeaways. But yeah, all these have been happening as well. So that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts on any of these news items down below. Always interested in continuing the discussion in the comments. If you, once again, haven't subscribed, I would very much appreciate that. And you'll get notifications for the next videos and all the rest. Congratulations if you're a shareholder on your returns. I have to admit the stock has moved even faster than I expected when I started buying heavy a few years ago. Not complaining, but it's really moved over the past few years. So we have seen some sales from insiders, but I'm not particularly upset about those. These things happen. Oh, and in Rocket Lab's launch today, if you're interested, we did see finally some videos from the new COO, Frank Klein. A lot of people have been interested in hearing from him. So we did get to hear from him for the first time if you're interested in checking out that recording. I do hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week. I will see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.